Hello and welcome to Blockchain Gaming World Daily with me, John Jordan. And the big news today is certainly big. Sorare, the French soccer NFT game, has raised $680 million of funding. That's massive. It actually raised 50 million earlier in 2021, so this is obviously a much bigger round. Series B basically means it's a second big funding round. The round was led by SoftBank, which is the very aggressive Japanese investor. We sort of knew this was coming. So there's been rumours that Sorare has been doing about a $500 million round earlier in the year. Obviously, this is bigger, 680. So we have a few more investors have come on board since then. So that's sort of interesting for the blockchain game space, which is super hot at the moment. A lot of money being raised, but Sorare's fundraisers is by far the biggest. Actually, we can see here it is the largest funding round in the history of French technology and the largest Series B round for any company in Europe. So that puts it into context. Just generally, blockchain games is incredibly hot at the moment, and we're going to see more. Probably not of this sort of scale, but we're definitely going to see some more $100 million plus rounds announced in the next few weeks, because we know they are coming. And let's talk a bit about Sorare. So it's only been around fairly recently, so sort of summer of 2018. So 3 years ago, they started out a game where you own NFTs of football players, licensed football players. You put them together in a team. You play other people on a weekly basis, and it has a fantasy element in which the performance of the players is based on their stats and also their performance in real life. One of the interesting things about Sorare is it's done lots of licensing deals. So we can see here have 180 clubs globally, 6,000 players, 600,000 registered users, and it has most of the big sort of clubs. The big issue it doesn't have at the moment is it doesn't have Premier League, or very much in the Premier League. It has Liverpool in the Premier League and West Ham. There are some interesting rules about how you get Premier League clubs. I think I've heard from different things from different sources. So I don't have a definitive view on that. I've heard from some sources you can only add one club a year from the Premier League. I've heard from other sources that you can only have a maximum of 2 clubs. There's basically rules around the Premier League. Obviously, $680 million means you can probably get the Premier League in. I don't know how much you'd have to pay to do that, but clearly, I imagine money talks, particularly at the moment. And so Sorare, I imagine, will do a deal with the Premier League to basically get the Premier League in there, because that's what it needs to do. For this to be like a serious soccer game, it needs to get the Premier League in there. That's the biggest league in the world, and with the most famous players. So there we go. But they're building out globally. They've got those sort of licenses, and licenses are expensive, so you need a lot of money for that reason. There are some other issues here. So the game was sort of a little bit broken in terms of getting people on board. When I tried to play earlier in the year, I wanted to build a team with $100. Couldn't do it. Probably then you needed about $200, $300 to do that, to buy 5 of the NFT-based characters. You can play. They do have a version where you play it without. They're not NFTs. They're not cards you own and can trade. But that's not very sort of exciting. They've introduced this new scarcity model, so there's a new sort of lower level of cards, the yellow cards that new players can sort of get involved with. So they've sort of created a new bottom league where people can get involved and sort of work their way up. They do sort of suffer from a lot of the issues of popular blockchain games. We've seen the same thing with Axie Infinity, where very popular games means the asset price goes up and means people can't get in to play the game. With Axie, they've managed to get around that with this sort of scholarship model. They don't have that in Sorare. Sorare also doesn't have, at least at the moment, tokens. So there's no token in there, it's just the NFTs. I don't know whether they're going to change that. Obviously, tokens allow you to sort of keep the economy going in a different way. So they may do that. I don't know really. So what else are they up to? So they are going to build a world-class team. Obviously, they've got $680 million in order to hire. They're going to be hiring loads of people. Going to sign new partnerships. So obviously, they're going to get all the football leagues in. National teams is interesting. They're starting to get involved with national teams. Obviously, we've got the World Cup next year. So they can do stuff around World Cup as well. So again, all this stuff is very heavy on legal and licensing. It's a very, very sort of nasty area, expensive area where you have to get a lot of lawyers involved. And there's Sorare at the moment are doing deals with the teams. There may be some kickback with individual players having their own sort of licensing around this sort of stuff. I don't really know about that, but that's going to take up a lot of their time, I imagine. Obviously, you want to get it on mobile and you want to market it. Again, you have issues with mobile. Apple, in particular, doesn't seem to like NFTs very much. Google maybe more so, but we don't really know. There's not a lot of blockchain games on mobile. And obviously, the big thing, I guess, for them is expanding into new sports. So it's not that difficult to think about other sports in which they could do it. Obviously, we've had NBA Top Shot, which is not a game but a video clip collectible project being very successful. You can imagine things, probably they're French, they're not going to rush into something like cricket, but obviously there's all cricket, baseball, American football, basketball, rugby. You go through all the sort of different sports, golf. So we see that's in 2022. Still, this is an enormous amount of money. It's interesting when we look down at who's invested here. SoftBank is the lead investor, and then we have these other sort of companies. Some of these are pretty well known: Atomico, Bessemer, very well known VC companies. Not done a lot of blockchain investments, not done any blockchain game investments. Same thing with SoftBank; they've not been in blockchain before. So this is a big bet from these companies who you assume they know what they're talking about, but we'll wait and see. It's interesting, there are no crypto companies involved in this at all. So these companies are what we call traditional VCs. They're not crypto VCs. Not to say that I don't know why crypto VCs are not involved. Maybe they didn't ask them. I don't know. But we'll wait and see. I guess the one thing I would say, $680 million is an incredible opportunity. Can also be, I think, sometimes with venture rounds, can also be too much. There's too much money, a lot of money. If you get a lot of money, you can end up wasting it, I think, or not deploying it efficiently. And you end up spending a lot of time, the management team spend a lot of time doing things which they may be better off not doing. I mean, hiring is a big issue. If you try and hire lots of people straight away, you can end up with suboptimal hiring, which can sort of mess up your team. Launching lots of games, I don't know. I'm trying not to be sort of contrary about this, but I do kind of think sometimes too much money is a bad thing. It just puts a lot of pressure on people. But I think the broader thing is we can just see blockchain games as an investable sector is going through the roof. Let's have a quick look. I've got a graph to show put this sort of stuff in context. So here we have all the investments that I've been able to track in blockchain games from 2016. So we can see here back in the day there were these sort of small investments. These are ICOs, nothing for a few years. And then really 2021 is where it sort of kicks in. We have these big investment. This is Dapper Labs, $305 million. And we have Forte, $185 million, and some other, $100 million. This is for OpenSea, I think. And here we have Sorare up here, 680, like an enormous amount. So we're well over $2.5 billion into blockchain games as a sector. That is well over it's about $2 million into blockchain games in 2021 alone. That's going to go up further because we know there's some other big deals happening. But you can just see, you can see the scale of what's going on here. It is a really interesting time, and obviously most of the deals are very small amounts. Because you have the little startups raising a few million, 5 million or something, and there's quite a lot of that stuff still happening under the surface. But every so often we see these really big, enormous sort of deals, and I guess we expect to see more of that as well. And it really is. A lot of these VCs really piling into the space early. They really see this as being a massive, big sector that you want to put as much money into as possible as early as possible. So they really want to gain their advantage. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, we will kind of see over time. But anyway, thanks for watching. This is Blockchain, a gaming world, keeping our eye on the pulse, our finger on the pulse, I suppose, a finger on the pulse of what's going on in this sort of crazy world. Keep it here. Please subscribe to the channel. See you again soon.